And then there were two.
The
conference finals took place on Saturday. We'll begin in the East. Cincinnati hosted Columbus. They jumped out to a 2-0 lead. Brandon Vasquez and Lucho Acosta on a well-worked free kick. They held that lead until the 75th minute. It looked like they were headed to MLS Cup, but then the crew staged this stunning comeback. An Alves Powell own goal made it 2-1. Diego Rossi made it 2-2. We go to extra time. In the 115th minute, Christian Ramirez scores 3-2 Columbus, the final. Heartbreak for Cincinnati. Columbus off to their 4th MLS Cup, looking to lift the trophy for the 3rd time.
L is real for Cincinnati. And, once again, we talked about it on the show. Now we're looking at 8 times, still only 8 times in history where an MLS team has won Supporters' Shield and then parlayed that into MLS Cup. And yet another one goes down. We shouldn't be surprised at this time. And it'd be one thing if it was just not even a question, but they had it in the palm of their hand, Mosse. They had the opportunity not only to beat in the semifinal the opposition, I'm talking about Cincinnati, but their major in-state rival, okay? The OGs versus the Nouveau Riche, Cincinnati being the Nouveau Riche here, and to host MLS Cup. And they pissed it away when it comes to Cincinnati. Credit Columbus, and I actually think if you just look at these two teams, especially with a Cincinnati that doesn't have Miazga and wasn't fully functioning, the better team won. However, you go up 2-0 at home in a situation like that. If you're Pat Noonan, you're probably waking up that next morning saying, God, I can't believe we let that one get away.
Not to relitigate the value of the Supporters' Shield versus MLS Cup, but so you think the winner between Columbus and LAFC will have a better claim to have been the best team in the league this season than Cincinnati?
The best team?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's the debate. There are people that say, regardless of what happens in the playoffs, whoever won the Supporters' Shield, when we look back on the 2023 MLS season, Cincinnati will have been the quote-unquote best team in the league that season.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that the best team is subjective, okay? But ultimately, this is about winning MLS Cup, all right? You're Wolverines of Michigan, my friend. By the way, congratulations being on the 4, okay?
This will be a conversation later in the podcast.
Okay, but if you win the championship, nobody's going to give a crap what all the other stuff that happened. You're the champions, okay? And so, yes, and we're going to talk a little bit more about trophy celebration also later on in the pod. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it changes the way that I look at MLS, the way that I look at the structure, the way that I look at these two teams in particular. And if you're Cincinnati, again, you have nobody else to blame but yourself and maybe Matt Miazga.
Wilfred Nancy.
Yes.
Incredible job with Montreal last season, then goes to Columbus, has now guided them to MLS Cup. His teams play attractive football. Players get better under him. A lot of people think he is emerging as the coach in MLS right now.
We talked, I think, in the previous pod about romantic notions. And I think that Wilfred Nancy is a true believer and a romantic in the best sense, in that if it came down to choosing to be pragmatic in order to get the result and standing by what his philosophy is, I do think that he would be that romantic and would die on this hill that he has created. And even in the game, Mosse, if you watch the first goal that Columbus gave up, they were playing out of the back. And they were playing out of back in a risky way that all it took was one poor pass, one missed touch, which ultimately what happened, and Cincinnati made them pay. And so in that sense, they played right into their hands, and people like me or others would be looking around going, why are you even doing that? And yet I think Wilfred Nancy would, and specifically Wilfred Nancy would say, because that's how I believe not only the game should be played, but more importantly, that's how I believe we are going to win. Now, ultimately, it worked out for them. And I love the fact that he didn't betray what he and this team have been about, even in the most important moment when they very easily could have. And so I all the praise that he is getting is justified. A stellar type of off-field move to bring him in. Tim Bezbatchenko looks great right now in terms of what they have done, and now you get to host it. And again, if you remember a couple years ago during the pandemic, and I hate to bring us back to those days, but Columbus hosted. I was at that. It was like 1,000 people, 500, 1,500 people. They also had COVID situation where players weren't playing, Nagby and others. That it almost wasn't. I'm not saying that they're not champions, but it almost doesn't count. And it almost, in my mind, if you look back at it, it's not even an MLS Cup. This is going to be a true MLS Cup. By the way, in their new stadium that they get to host, sold out.
When we were there in 2020 for that MLS Cup, we took a tour of the stadium with the owners.
Yeah, I mean, it was, hey, this thing is coming. And what they have done, and to be fair to Cincinnati, they've done the same thing down in Cincinnati. They have created these incredible environments. But as we saw, they don't always produce wins. So now you got Columbus being able to host in their incredible stadium, full stadium this time, against our friends LAFC. So should we talk about LAFC Houston?
Yes. So the Western Conference Final, LAFC with a nice and tidy 2-0 home win over Houston. Ryan Hollingshead late in the first half, and then Fran Escobar with an own goal late in the second half against his former team. So LAFC, off to their second straight MLS Cup. They're looking to become the first repeat champion since the Galaxy in 2012.
Okay, so I think that the better team won. Speaking of environments also, by the way, what LAFC does on a consistent basis is wonderful. And I know this is a subjective thing, but if you could only go to one place to show people what an MLS environment is, or the best possible foot that you can put forward to show MLS, I think LAFC would certainly be up there. And they brought it again. Lots of smoke. As a matter of fact, it took a while for the smoke to dissipate. But when it finally did, there was only one team, and that was LAFC. Kudos again to Ben Olsen for what he has done. And there was an element, and I think he even said that this was a gravy type of moment and situation for this Houston team. They won the Open Cup. They completely and fundamentally changed our perception of this team for the better. And yet, this is where it ends. No shame in it, because I think they lost to a much better team in LAFC. So congratulations to the Houston Dynamo. Now can you make sure that this is not an anomaly? Make sure this isn't a Colorado of years past that has this blip on the screen and then goes back down to being forgettable.
So next Saturday, live on Fox, Columbus will host LAFC in the 28th MLS Cup. The last meeting between these teams early last season, a 2-0 LAFC win in Columbus. Cifuentes and Vela with the goals. One of the storylines here, this could be Vela's last game for LAFC. You've got two great strikers in Cucho and Buanga. You've got Diego Rossi facing his former club. A really fun final, huh?
Awesome. All of those things that you said. By the way, some kudos also to Ryan Hollingshead. I mean, this dude just gets himself in positions to score and has been wonderful. Also, I don't know if you saw it, but I mentioned earlier Darlington Nagbe after the game, just in tears on the field. Obviously, another opportunity for him to win yet another MLS Cup.
He's won it with Portland in 2015, Atlanta 2018, and then Columbus, as we talked about, in 2020. So he could win his fourth MLS Cup, 3 different clubs.
For those that have listened to the pod and listened to me over the years, you'll know that I stand for Darlington Nagbe, because in my estimation, I think of a different type of trajectory and pathway had Darlington Nagbe for his entire career wanted to be with the national team. And we know that there was things that are whatever it ultimately is, it didn't work out. But when I look at Darlington Nagbe, I still think I put him in the echelon of the Tab Ramoses in terms of the ability to hold the ball, an American midfield player with the ability to hold the ball. If you know Diego Valeri, incredible star for Portland who played with Darlington Nagbe, he put out a wonderful, was it Instagram, one of the social media things, basically a tribute to Darlington Nagbe, talking about how years from now when he is asked about players that he played with, he will bring up Darlington Nagbe. And so I think the respect, but also maybe, and this is to Diego's point, the surprise of seeing somebody in MLS an American, a U.S. international with that type of capability that any team in the world would crave and want and would value. And so he gets another opportunity to go back to, like you said, yet another MLS Cup.
You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops twice a week right here on my very own YouTube page. The only way to stay up to date is to hit that subscribe button down below. Size the day, and see you soon.